Have you ever found that you remember things better when you're tested on them? That's not magic. It's science. Today, we'll uncover the testing effect. Welcome back to Initiate Improvement, where we explore self-improvement and personal development tips. In today's video, we will discuss the testing effect and how to boost your memory and retention. So let's get into it. The testing effect is a psychological phenomenon. We're practicing by recalling information rather than just reviewing it, boosts long-term retention. When we test ourselves or actively retrieve information, we reinforce the natural pathways associated with that data, akin to retracing a path to make it more distinct. In boosting memory and retention, leveraging the testing effect can be instrumental. Instead of just rereading notes or passively reviewing the material, actively quizzing oneself or simulating test conditions can significantly improve the likelihood of recalling that information. Thus, integrating self-testing into one's study routine can lead to more robust memory consolidation and better academic performance. History of testing. As a formalized method of assessing student knowledge and proficiency, test taking in schools has its roots in ancient civilizations. For instance, in ancient China, the imperial examination system, which began around the Han Dynasty, tested individuals on their proficiency in Confucian texts and determined their suitability for various governmental positions. In the Western world, formal examinations in educational institutions can be traced back to medieval European universities, where oral examinations were the norm. However, it was during the 19th and 20th centuries that standardized testing, resembling our modern understanding, began to gain prominence, especially in the United States and Europe. This was driven by the expanding role of public education and the need for systemic methods to evaluate growing student populations. Over time, these tests evolved in structure and purpose, becoming a cornerstone of modern educational systems worldwide. The science behind it. When you test yourself, your brain has to retrieve and reconstruct the information. This process strengthens neural pathways, making it easier to recall the information later. The science underpinning the testing effect revolves around the brain's memory retrieval and consolidation process. When we actively recall information, as opposed to passively reviewing it, our brains strengthen the neural connections associated with that specific information. This process of active recall forces the brain to retrace its neural pathways to the original memory, reinforcing and solidifying the connection. Retrieval can highlight gaps in our knowledge, prompting us to fill these voids and further enhance our understanding. From a neuroscientific perspective, every time we retrieve a memory, it undergoes a process called reconsolidation, wherein it is restabilized and sometimes even modified. Through this mechanism, the memory becomes more ingrained and easier to access in the future. Hence, the testing effect is not merely a study trick, but a tangible cognitive process that capitalizes on the brain's natural mechanisms for memory reinforcement and optimization. Testing versus rereading. While rereading might feel productive, studies show that active recall through testing often leads to better long-term memory. It's the difference between looking at a map and navigating a route alone. Testing versus rereading encapsulates two contrasting study approaches, with the former being rooted in the testing effect and the latter representing a more traditional and passive study method. While rereading offers a sense of familiarity with the content, making learners feel more confident about their grasp of the material, this comfort can be deceiving. In contrast, testing oneself forces active recall, triggering the brain to strenuously navigate neural pathways to retrieve the desired information. This effortful retrieval reinforces the memory and highlights knowledge gaps, enabling targeted learning. On the other hand, merely revisiting the text, as done in rereading, doesn't challenge the brain in the same manner, often leading to a superficial retention that fades more rapidly over time. In the context of the testing effect, this distinction becomes paramount. Active engagement through testing proves to be a more potent tool for memory retention and long-term learning than passive content reiteration. Practical application. Want to harness the testing effect? Try these tips. Use flashcards for self-quizzing. Engage in group discussions and teach others. And take practice tests without looking at the material. The testing effect, with its profound implications for memory and learning, offers several practical applications for students, educators, and lifelong learners. For starters, incorporating self-quizzing into study routines can be immensely beneficial. Using flashcards, where the front poses a question or a prompt and the back provides the answer, allows for active recall and immediate feedback. Beyond solitary study, group discussions or teaching peers can also harness the power of the testing effect, as explaining concepts or answering questions requires information retrieval. For educators, sprinkling low-stakes quizzes or recall-based activities throughout a course can help reinforce the material and highlight areas needing further attention. Additionally, digital platforms and apps harnessing spaced repetition algorithms are now available to optimize the testing effect by timing reviews just as the memories begin to fade. Integrating these strategies into educational frameworks can systematically leverage the testing effect to boost retention and comprehension. Benefits. By leveraging the testing effect, you can reduce study time, improve exam performance, and deepen your understanding of the content. The testing effect benefits extend beyond mere academic performance, offering a holistic approach to optimize learning and memory retention. First and foremost, it enhances long-term recall, ensuring that information is not just crammed and forgotten, but genuinely internalized for future reference. This not only aids in achieving a better exam outcome, but also fosters a deeper understanding of the material. By frequently testing themselves, learners can identify and address knowledge gaps more effectively than through passive revision, leading to a more comprehensive grasp of topics. Furthermore, this approach reduces the illusion of mastery. In this pitfall, one overestimates their understanding due to mere familiarity with the content. Regular self-assessment also aids in building metacognitive skills, allowing individuals to better judge their learning and tailor their study techniques accordingly. In the broader scope of lifelong learning, the testing effect cultivates a proactive and engaged learning mindset, which is essential for adapting to our rapidly evolving world. Drawbacks. While the testing effect has been lauded for its advantages in memory retention, it's not without its limitations. Relying excessively on testing can lead to a narrow focus on rote memorization at the expense of holistic understanding, potentially sidelining critical thinking and conceptual comprehension. Additionally, tests can be poorly designed or too frequent. In that case, they might instill undue stress or foster a false sense of mastery, impeding genuine learning. There's also the risk of overconfidence. If learners repeatedly test themselves on familiar material without diversifying their study subjects, they might be lulled into a deceptive sense of proficiency, overlooking broader knowledge gaps. Furthermore, the efficacy of the testing effect can vary based on the complexity of the material, individual learning styles, and the interval between study sessions and tests. Personal story. I wouldn't let the drawbacks scare you off from testing just yet. I've got a personal story to share where the testing effect helped me, especially when I taught myself Spanish. I never took a formal class to learn the language. However, I used lots of textbooks, DVDs, and even music to help me learn to read, write, and converse in Spanish. Early on, I remember being frustrated that I was forgetting things that I had learned only 1 or 2 days prior. It wasn't until I started filling out the exercises and the exams in my textbooks that I retained the information. I had initiated the testing effect without even realizing it. One thing I did to double down on my testing effect was that I graded my own quizzes and tests. This process really helped my retention of the material. Those incorrect answers really stuck with me, especially when I saw that I got an answer wrong. Let's face it, taking tests can be unpleasant for most people. Just remember that sometimes it's the hard things that make us improve the fastest. So next time you study, test yourself to truly cement that knowledge. Keep testing and keep learning. If you found this useful, give us a thumbs up and drop any questions in the comments below. Subscribe and turn on notifications to see new videos about self-improvement and personal development. Thank you so much for watching. Check out this video to continue improving. and I'll see you in the next one.